The first rule of deep space exploration in the Carey Diplomatic Codex, Section 47, subsection C, always announce peaceful intentions before landing. The second rule, bring appropriate gift baskets. No rule existed for what to do when the planet screamed first. That's not supposed to happen, Commander Urich muttered, her bioluminescent veins flickering an anxious electric blue. Her neural port sparked once, a chrome flower blooming from her neck, before stabilizing. Acoustic waves don't propagate through vacuum, Torvik growled. The Arvok mercenary captain's jagged gray face, carved by time and war, twisted into something close to concern. But my audio receptors are bleeding. Whatever roared on Con 6 had punched sound through space. No one knew how. From orbit, the moon looked like a horror story written in volcanic ash and blood-red fungus. Megaforests shifted unnaturally, like muscles beneath skin. The bioluminescent lightning storms danced across the surface like they were alive. But no storm made that sound. "Play it again," said May Donovan, the only human on board. Not coalition military, just a Terran contractor hired for cultural insight. She didn't feel special. She felt like bait. The sound rolled through the bridge like a tsunami. A deep, bone-cracking rumble rising into something more intelligent. Screams laced in patterns. Cadence. Rhythm. As if something, someone, was organizing the madness. "That's not random," Urich whispered, her secondary eyes dilating. "Could be a distress signal." May didn't hear a cry for help. She felt it, somewhere deeper than her ears, deeper than her gut. It struck her hindbrain like a memory she'd never lived. Every nerve in her spine stiffened. That wasn't a distress call. That was war. Torvik's claws tapped metal. Planet screams. "We ignore. We leave. I vote aye." "We can't," said Urich. "Protocol mandates investigation. Coalition territory. Possible civilian presence." "We're not alone here," May said suddenly. The bridge went quiet. Torvik hissed. "What makes you say that, Terran?" May didn't answer. She stepped to the audio terminal and adjusted the filter manually. She cut frequencies. She looped the signal. She narrowed it. And then it came again. Only this time, underneath the thunderous roar, under the layered howls and static, she heard it. A voice. A single word, almost lost in the chaos. "Human. Reload." Urich froze. "What did you say?" May turned slowly. It said, "Reload." In English. Silence cracked like glass on the bridge. Torvik's pulse sensors went red. Human voice, speaking human tongue, on an uninhabited death rock. May's face turned pale. If they're still down there, then this isn't a distress signal. It's a message. Urich's breathing changed pitch, the way Carey exhale when terror crosses into revelation. "What kind of message?" she asked. May's voice was a whisper. "War isn't over. Not for them." Torvik slammed his fist into the console. "You're telling me humans have been here? Before we mapped this moon?" May nodded slowly. "If that was a marine, then God help whatever screamed first." Far below, in the stormlit forests of Con 6, something ancient moved beneath the fungal canopy. Cameras on the planet's surface flickered to life for the first time in decades. One by one. The system wasn't just waking up. It was watching. And somewhere in the ruins, deep in the underground husk of a long-forgotten Terran outpost, the signal played again. Roars. Then silence. Then, clearer this time. Reload. The bridge of the harmonious intent pulsed with tension. Lights dimmed as the ship shifted to a defensive posture. Nobody issued the command, it was the AI's instinct, mirroring the unspoken fear in the crew's silence. May stared at the audio waveform. The screen was still there, like tectonic plates grinding under molten steel, but now she could hear more than noise. There were other words buried in the chaos. Orders. Formation calls. War chants. "This isn't a natural phenomenon," May said quietly. "It's organized." Repeating. Combat protocol. Urich tapped her neural stem and accessed the coalition archives. There's no record of human deployment on Con 6. No colonies. No terraforming. It's listed as Class X, uninhabitable, prebiotic, unstable atmospheric layers. Exactly, May said. So what the hell were Marines doing here? Torvik unsheathed his blade claws. What if they weren't deployed, what if they were abandoned? The thought hung heavier than gravity. Scan for structures, Yurik barked. Deep crustal formations. Anything artificial. Lieutenant Hacks from sensors looked up, blood drained from his scaled face. Ma'am, we found something. Multiple heat signatures. Shielded. Buried under the southern hemisphere. Carbon dating, puts it at 87 Terran years old. 87. May whispered. That's impossible. No human settlement that old exists outside the Sol system. Unless it wasn't a settlement, Torvik said. It was a war. The ship descended, orbital thrusters hissing as the moon's corrupted surface drew closer. Crimson fungus whipped in unseen winds. Lightning storms blinked like fireflies in hell. The landing gear touched a rock that twitched like muscle. They found the ruins half-sunken in ash and overgrowth. Half-built bunkers, torn fences, rusted mech suits with claw marks across their hulls. Human bones in armor still gripped rusted rifles. They hadn't died from time. They died fighting. May crouched by one skeletal figure, brushing off a faded patch. 13th Drop Battalion, Terran Unified Forces. She felt her throat tighten. The 13th was listed as MIA in the Orion blackout. No survivors. No trace. Torvik stepped past her, lifting a cracked helmet with one claw. Inside was a skull missing its jaw, and something worse. Tiny fungal threads coiled through the eye sockets. They died fighting something that learned how to use them, he growled. Look. Half covered by debris was a wall carved with dozens of scratched marks, tallies. Next to them, words etched by hand. We heard them scream. We screamed louder. Reload. A low hum filled the air. Yurik spun. Biosignature spike. We're not alone. Movement surged in the distance, black shapes, eight-limbed, crawling over the terrain like liquid shadow. Eyes blinked in unnatural directions. The planet's ecosystem wasn't a coincidence. It was a weapon. The scream came again, but this time it didn't echo. It didn't broadcast. It came from the ruins themselves. Loud. Clear. Thunderous. Form up. May froze. That's human. That's a sergeant's command. Lights flared deep beneath their feet. Old bunkers powered on. One by one. Torvik raised his blaster. This is no graveyard. It's a garrison. Then the roar of a gun, ancient, kinetic, unmistakable, tore through the silence. The dust exploded near the shadows, and something shrieked and dissolved in flame. A figure emerged from the ruined structure. Armor scorched. Limbs cybernetically reinforced. The helmet was patched with fungus-repellent sealant. The weapon he held was a Terran M92 automatic railgun, outdated but lethal. The voice came through the static again, now in perfect clarity. Reload. Light M up. May stepped back, stunned. They're alive. The Marine raised his weapon again, eyes glowing behind cracked visors. No, Yurik said softly, watching more rise from the ruins. They endured. They weren't ghosts. They weren't echoes. They were human. And they had never left. The 13th Drop Battalion didn't die on Con 6, they adapted. What rose from the crumbling bunkers were not fresh soldiers. These were the hardened remains of a war long buried by bureaucracy and time. Their armor, scorched and modified, clung to them like battle scars. Limbs were reinforced with scavenged alien tech. Some had fungal growth sealed under biofilms, refusing to let infection slow them. Yurik stepped forward, translator implant syncing. This is Commander Yurik of the Galactic Coalition. We come in peace. The Marine at the front didn't lower his weapon. That's a mistake. May moved beside her. We're not your enemy. The Marine's helmet hissed open, revealing a man whose face had been aged by fire and blood. His eyes were human, but exhausted beyond recognition. He looked at May, lingered on her for a moment. You're Earthborn. She nodded. Chicago. A pause. Then. Sergeant Elias Crow. Terran Unified Forces. Welcome to the dead end of history. Behind him, 24 others stood in formation. Men and women. Some wore medals carved into armor. Some didn't wear helmets at all, only scars and haunted eyes. Yurik swallowed. You've survived, 87 years. Crow smirked. We didn't survive. We adapted. We became Con-6. And now it's waking up again. May frowned. What happened here? Crow's gaze grew hard. We were sent here to clear a pre-colonial threat. The coalition didn't believe in the reports. Fungal biomass with neural cohesion. Living storms. Hive intelligence. It wasn't a planet, it was a predator. Torvik narrowed his eyes. You mean the ecosystem is sentient? Crow nodded. Worse. It learns. He gestured to the field where black forms twitched and merged with the crimson fungus. They feed on memory. On identity. They tore through our AI. Corrupted our drones. So we adapted. We killed tech, went analog. Started using steel instead of plasma. When the storm eats your voice, you learn to scream with bullets. May's voice was quiet. Why didn't you call for help? We did, Crow snapped. We screamed into the void. You know what we got? Static. Interference. Con-6 doesn't want us to leave. It wants to spread. Haxa's voice crackled over the comms from the harmonious intent. Commander, surface readings changing. Spikes in bioneural activity. Something's growing. Fast. Crow turned to his team. We triggered it. You're landing. Our signal. It knows more meat has arrived. The ground trembled. Not a quake, a pulse. Something beneath them was moving. May reached for her comm Givak. Crow grabbed her wrist. Too late. You run, you lead it to the rest of your kind. Torvik snarled. So we die here? No, Crow said. We reload. A howl erupted in the distance. Not a scream. A call. Creatures poured from the hills. Fungal masses with bone spines and humanoid limbs. Some wore remnants of armor, as if they had devoured fallen soldiers and absorbed their strength. The ruins lit with old Terran floodlights. Turrets emerged from broken towers, jury-rigged and covered in fungal shielding. Marines took positions. Not a word spoken. Only the mechanical rhythm of a unit that had become legend. Crow looked at May. You wanted to know what makes humans different. He chambered around. We lose. We suffer. But we don't stay dead. The first wave hit the defenses like a tidal wave of rotten bone. Torvik fired twin plasma arcs. Yurik directed the ship's orbital cannons from the ground. May fired an old rifle given to her by one of the Marines. Her hands shook, but her aim held. And still, they came. Endless. Crow stood atop the barricade, eyes burning. Hold the line. Then shouted to the stars. Reload. The line didn't break. It bent. It bled. But it didn't break. The monsters of Con-6 surged like a flood of nightmares, their limbs stitched from fungal matter and corpses, their screeches layered with voices they'd stolen. But every time they charged, they met bullets, blades, and the unyielding defiance of humans who had already lost everything once. Sergeant Crow moved like a man who had stopped fearing pain decades ago. His railgun coughed thunder. The other Marines fought with ancient fury, screaming, laughing, crying out names of the long dead between rounds. May crouched behind cover, reloading with trembling fingers. Blood sprayed across her visor, not hers. She turned and saw Yurik beside her, one of her secondary eyes damaged, her bio-glow flickering. You okay? May asked. Yurik blinked. Pain is irrelevant. Fear is data. I'm adapting. Torvik ripped apart a shrieking crawler with his claws, his armor drenched in acidic blood. Now you understand humans. Madness and endurance. From above, the harmonious intent rained fire across the perimeter. But even orbital strikes couldn't hold the tide forever. For every enemy they killed, two more emerged. The planet itself pulsed with fury. The ground quaked not from tectonics, but from heartbeat. They're evolving, Crow yelled, firing at a creature now mimicking his own voice. Using our patterns. Our language. One of the beasts stopped, cocked its head, and barked, form up, in a near-perfect imitation. The Marine beside Crow dropped his weapon. They're mocking us. No, Crow whispered. They're becoming us. A massive tendril exploded from the ground, wrapped in broken steel and rusted armor. It reached toward the sky like a cathedral tower of rot. Yurik accessed her decaying databanks. New signal detected. Coordinated intelligence. A core. A hive. May stepped forward. Can we kill it? Crow looked down at his half-cracked visor and said nothing. Then he opened a rusted case. Inside, a nuclear warhead. Old. Unstable. Terran make. I never thought I'd use this, he muttered. Torvik snarled. Detonation will kill everything within 50 clicks. Crow didn't blink. That's the idea. You'll die. Crow smiled. I've been dead for years. May stepped forward. There has to be another way. Crow turned, eyes soft for just a breath. You're from Earth. Tell them what happened here. Tell them Con-6 doesn't sleep, it waits. But we didn't kneel. We didn't beg. We reloaded. A shriek tore through the valley. The tendril pillar moved, slowly reaching for the harmonious intent above. Crow nodded to his men. Final push. We punch through, we deliver the gift. Torvik growled. I'm going with you. Crow glanced back. You're not even human. No, Torvik said. But I've never felt more alive than standing beside your kind. The Marines, the mercenary, and the last warhead began the charge. May stayed behind, gun slack in her hand, watching legends walk into hell. Yurik touched her shoulder. We must go. Now. May shook her head. This isn't right. We just found them. Yurik's glow faded. And they chose to be the last line again. Crow's voice echoed through the comms one final time. For every scream they give us, we scream louder. For every soldier they turn, we bury them twice. Reload, you bastards. Then silence. Then the flash. Then darkness. The pulse of the detonation was not just light and heat, it was memory. It erased not only the horrors, but their hive mind's link. The fungus screamed as one, then died as silence fell like ash. Above the moon, aboard the harmonious intent, every screen went white. Every sensor flatlined. No signal. No movement. Then, slowly, data returned, empty. The surface of Con-6, once a breathing hellscape, now lay still. The tower was gone. The creatures gone. The signal gone. But so were they. May sat in the debriefing chamber, silent. The coalition had recovered the moments after detonation. Emergency extraction pods had brought her, Yurik, and the remaining crew back to safety. But Crow, Torvik, and the last of the 13th Drop Battalion never made it out. And no one else ever would. They wiped the core, the Admiral said, his voice low. You're sure it was intelligent? May didn't look up. It didn't scream until we landed. Didn't act until it had something to mimic. It needed minds. Personalities. Soldiers. It was never a planet, it was a war engine. Waiting for sound. For identity. For voices it could wear. And the humans who remained, the Admiral asked. They could have transmitted. We could have extracted. May slammed her fist down. They weren't waiting for rescue. They were the line. They chose to stay because they knew what Con-6 really was. It wasn't just alive. It was learning. Silence settled. Yurik stood nearby, her neural stem now fused with carrion battle scar tissue. She had changed, too. They chose extinction, one coalition officer said coldly. No, May whispered. They chose containment. The Admiral leaned forward. Then what do we tell command? That this was a mission failure? That we lost personnel to myth and madness? May stood. Tell them we found legends in a graveyard. And they didn't beg to be saved. They screamed reload until the sky answered back. She left the room, hands shaking. In the weeks that followed, the coalition scrubbed Con-6 from maps. Its orbit was mined with failsafes. No vessels were allowed near. Officially, it was listed as a collapsed moon. A natural implosion. No further investigation. Unofficially, stories spread. In the Terran undernets, whispers emerged. A file circulated, audio only. A grainy recording stitched together from ruined black boxes. It starts with silence. Then thunder. Then the voice of a soldier who should be dead. This is Sergeant Elias Crow, 13th Drop Battalion. If you're hearing this, we held the line. Tell Earth we never left. Tell the dark, we're still screaming. Reload.